Good morning, it's Wednesday. It is the 3rd of January, and it is 2024. So we have to go back to the beginning to understand where we're at today. There's so much ignorance in our world about the beginning, and it's on purpose. Satan, the evil empire that runs the earth, all the different gods, as it were, that operate in a position of power over people, over nations, over territories, the principalities and the powers that animate human-looking people. We need to understand in the beginning, God made everything good, and man was in a place of high esteem as far as the animals, the fish, the birds, all of creation, the air, the sun, moon, and stars were for man. Think about that for a second. For him to know the signs and the seasons, for him to have daylight and nighttime. Everything is about man. Everything in the earth is about man. The mere fact that it exists, that dirt exists, is about man. Has nothing to do, when people talk about climate change, or they talk about the polar ice caps, and they talk about melting, and they talk about, meteorites destroying the earth, and nonsense. This earth was built for us. It is a garden for us. It was for us. If we don't exist, it don't exist. They're the two things. So, we go back to the beginning. And one more thing on that note. When you look up, you see a clock. It's a clock. And what the Lord showed me a few days ago is that any clock, the motor is in the middle, right? You got the hour hand, you got the second hand. And think about the way a clock is built. It's 12 segments. There's 12 constellations. There's 12 disciples. There's 12 tribes. There's 12 elders in the divine council right now. There's 24 times 2. So when you look up at the sky and you see a clock for us, the middle is where the mechanism is. That's where the energy is. That's where the power is that turns the hands of the clock, that moves the stars around. The sun and moon are directed by the center of the clock. So wouldn't it be logical to assume at that point that the center of the sky, which is north, over top of Polaris, would represent a good possible location for the very literal throne of God, which is coming down? Literal will enter in time, space, history. It'll be a real manifest thing coming in. Wouldn't it make sense that it is still right there, hasn't moved since the beginning of creation? Now, moving to Genesis chapter 3, you have Satan, or Lucifer, or a divine being that did not like that earth was made for man and was trying to take man out of his regal royal position, goes into that, hides within that tree, which is probably beautiful, of the knowledge of good and evil. It wasn't a snake talking. It wasn't a talking snake, if we look at the word Nakesh. It was a shining one. And when you think about the deceptions that have always worked, it's the angel of light that's a false light. So this was not an animal. This was a divine being masquerading in the form of, maybe it looked like when people talk about reptilian, people becoming like reptilian face, but they're brilliant and they're talking and they're shining. They're intimidating. So Eve was drawn in by this divine being that had serpent-like qualities, but had super intelligence. It knew what God had done. It knew what God had said to Adam and Eve as far as like not eating of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It knew all that. It obviously knew heaven and what it looked like. Adam and Eve only knew this beautiful earth that God put them in, the garden that he put them in. So the shining one uses intellectual deception and beauty, because a snake isn't beautiful. So we don't know what the fruit was, but we know that the shining one gave them to eat of the fruit. They ate, well, Eve ate, and then she gave it to Adam to eat, and they ate, and they died. Now, why is that important to know? What is man under satanic influence doing today? Shining objects, right? Science, technology, crafts in the sky that are from who knows where, right? They say other planets, galaxies, all that. If they're going to use shiny things, that's the point. They're going to use things that allure the human eye. And then they're going to use the shiny object to control, to trick. It won't be, in my view, Satan used something shiny. He didn't use something, he didn't try to intimidate Eve. He seduced Eve, right? What do you think is ultimately going to captivate the whole earth as is prophesied in the scriptures about the final deception? There's a falling away. It's going to be falling away because of the shiny one, because of something that is alluring, something that is attractive, something that makes sense to the natural mind, that cares about physical survival or comfort, loving comfort. So when Jesus tells you and me to take up our cross daily, that's not comfortable to take up a cross. It's not comfortable to lay on the cross and die to ourselves every day. So if the message you're listening to today is about your comfort, it's not from God. If you're not challenged by what you're hearing or feeling or sensing of what your call is, if you call yourself a Christian, you call yourself a son or daughter of the Most High, then you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. We're moving things around. We, the people of God, are the ones that pull down strongholds. There's no one else that can do it. Trump can't do it, right? The most powerful, most richest, Elon Musk, Bill Gates, they don't want to, but we, the meek of the earth, are the ones that pull down strongholds over towns and cities and states and countries. We are the ones that are going to sit with Jesus and judge the angels and all the people that have ever lived. We are being translated eventually into an actual thing called the divine council. We are the heirs of all of this, co-heirs with Christ, right? We are seated on thrones, but we do the cross-bearing things today. We are the meek. Meek people don't need self-aggrandizing promotions and titles. The reason that Paul would say, I'm an apostle, is so that people would know that what that term meant. He was a sent one. What is an apostle? It's a sent one, sent by God to a people, to a group, to do a job. It's an assignment. It's like a military general telling you, as a sergeant or whatever your title would be in the economy of God and the structure, but you're sent as a messenger to do a work. That's what God has done in my life. 2005, he sent me to the town where I live, sent me to do a job, and the job is not done. So who can pull down the strongholds over my town? Only me and those who operate in the spirit, who are people that took up their cross. They're submitted. Because if you're submitted to God, the devil can't touch you, right? So if Adam and Eve would have stayed submitted to the word and the only word of the living God that gave them admonition not to eat of that fruit, if they just would have submitted, they would have never died. And we would not be talking about a cross and resurrection and casting down arguments and pulling down strongholds. We wouldn't have to do it because it wouldn't exist. The only reason strongholds exist is because Adam and Eve, through the lies of the shining one, ate of that horrible fruit that showed them evil. They knew good, but now they know evil. So may God help you understand the beginning of all the sorrow and the setting in which the sorrow came and the position in which man has been placed. Earth doesn't exist if there's no man. Man is the center of the earth, and we're directly under the throne of God. Everything else is a clock. Everything else is for signs and seasons and for day to day, time to develop the process of time. As we get closer to the end, this is going to become more and more understood by true believers, people that just open to truth and only truth, who have a filter for the word of God, and that's it, who are testing things, because you should be testing me right now. Everything I've just said should be tested by you.